to use this freaking tool. I just found Paperclip, right, which is agent orchestration, but I love how they have this whole thing laid out. This is like the first time it's given me like a cool visual. So the dashboard is still working on the skill. So essentially, the skill was help. My company goal was to make help everyone make money from their side hustles, right? And right now, the only agent was the CEO, and the first thing that Paperclip told it to do was go hire somebody, right, as the first task, which is essentially what a CEO would do, right? If you're running a company, I mean, obviously, if you're running a company, you're the founder, you're everything. Maybe depending on a budget, you might not be, but you would go hire somebody, right? You need people to delegate tasks to. You can't do everything, and that's the issue with having a big .md file, right? It's just not optimized. You cannot go through 10,000 lines every single time you have a question in your .md file, or 100,000 lines or whatever. You have to delegate separate tasks out. Hey, if it's related to finance, go to the finance.md file. If it's related to this file, go to this file, right? You cannot just keep building. This is freaking sick because it's helping me visualize exactly what my org chart looks like. And in my org chart, I can hire and fire people. I have my own little agent company. And that's so sick, right? That's actually kind of crazy to think about, because I can go ahead, and what I would do right now and what I probably might do is go on YouTube or go on any other website, blogs and stuff, figure out exactly what makes every CEO successful, what are the skills that they have, and plug it into the CEO skill. And I would do the same thing for the CMO, the CTO, the marketing manager. I would do it for, I don't even know if you need a HR for agents, if they're colluding with each other, if they're being racist, if they're hooking up. I don't know what agents are into nowadays. This is kind of crazy to think about, that I have my own freaking virtual company, right? Like, which is insane. And honestly, I can give it as much skills and contacts and put as much information I can into it, and they would be so much better than hiring just a random person that I know, right? This is actually so like, I don't even know what's the word to describe it, because it's kind of weird exactly where we're headed, right? Like, I just, like, if you're running any company, a small business, right? Anything, right? If you're running, like, let's say 2 stores or a store, like like, let's say you're running a retail store, right? Any small retail store, right? A gas station or a food store, whatever it is. Maybe you're just running a restaurant. Pretty much now you can, if you're savvy enough, you can have a finance pretty much officer, or CFO, chief financial officer, that handles all your financing. You can have a marketing manager that handles all your marketing, and you can essentially have a I don't know what else would a small restaurant need. You can have a audit manager, right? Food and health, all your inspections up to date, are all your documents and food handling safety certifications up to date. I don't know. You can have a tax agent, and pretty much now you have delegated 4 different things to all of these. Wow. So essentially, I told CEO to build out and hire somebody. It just came up with my CTO. What are the CTOs? You are the CTO founding whose mission is to help everyone make money. You're the first technical hire. There's no other engineer above you besides or under you. When you wake up, follow the Paperclip skill. It contains full heartbeat procedure. Engineering, pick boring, defensible technology, optimized for shipping speed, product cost and governance. Wow. Delegation, you have create, hire a coder, specialize. You have create agents true when your scope exceeds 1 person. Hire a coder, hire a QA agent, hire a security engineer. Yeah, like for me, I'm building out my app. This is so cool. Like, this is so freaking cool. I need to go ahead. What is my CTO doing? Has it already started running some stuff? Assignment. What's the assignment? This is so freaking cool. You can assign it skills and like a task. It's like Jira, right? I don't know. This is making me really excited. I'm gonna be working on this a lot. I'm gonna figure out exactly how I can take my uh, application and pretty much plug it into this, right? For Market Hustle, I'm trying to build out Market Hustle, and right now I'm getting to a point where things are pretty good, but I am losing track of context and I am losing track of files. So like, I'm like, hey, remember when we talked about this? Remember when we talked about that? Do you remember this? Um, why isn't this design like this? So like, one thing that I ran into is the unification of processes, or the structure or schema or whatever. I noticed that while I was testing out my app, we had so many different locations with the same like sort of we had so many different places with the same information, right? Like, so for example, event date and event time, I noticed that there was like 4 or 5 different files for event date and event time, and every single one was almost like hard coded in a way. So like, for example, if you're somebody who's filling out an inquiry for a service, right? Like if you're trying to hire a photographer and they ask you to fill out an inquiry, so you fill out the inquiry, right? That's one thing that gets fed into my system, right? Into the database. It's a schema, and it has like, hey, I would like to hire somebody for my event on July 4th at 4 p.m. That's the first reference to it. Then there's another file that references when I send out the quote to the user that just filled out the inquiry. In the quote, I also have the same reference, pretty much duplicate the same time. So what it did was it took the inquiry time and it just added it to the quote time. But now we're duplicating work. Now I hard coded 2 different values, right? I should have just had one place, like the inquiry would be the source of truth, and then from the inquiry, then you would figure out like, hey, this is the time that was set in the inquiry. This would also be the time that would be in the quote, unless the seller changed it. But then when the booking confirmation happened, then I also had another reference where the booking confirmation was pretty much another place where it was creating a new reference to it was creating hard-coded values, right? It wasn't just grabbing everything from the original inquiry form. It was hard-coding the values that it found. So it just took this, whatever it said, 4 p.m. It just put 4 p.m. on like the booking details, right? Which is just bad code. And again, there's so many files to go over. I didn't even look into all of them, but essentially I knew that to a certain degree we could optimize this, right? We need to work on it, but it's getting to a point where it's hard, and I need specific agents to just handle these things, and I'm getting finally to the point where I've needed this. We are in a rate limit. Allowed resets. Damn, I pretty much, is this using my API creds? Cancel. I'm so confused. It just started running. I mean, let me start by following parallel clips and use skill. Let me look at instructions, heartbeat. March 1st plan document. Here's your first engineering kernel. You're the CEO. Okay. Isn't this done though? Hire your, okay, so build the engineering loop MVP. I didn't even give it all these things. Okay, the only thing that's a little concerning right now is okay, we need to we need to stop some of these, because now we're just getting to a point where I have like no idea what everything's doing. So let me go ahead and stop my CTO. Pause. Which one is this? This one is assignment is what? Chief Running Engineering. Define metrics. Propose V1. Set up technical foundation. So like, how is this even running? I haven't given any sort of context for this shit. Or this stuff or whatever. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is, oh, this, no wonder it went over as 4.7 Opus. Did I actually hit my rate limit? I might have to wait. I haven't hit my rate limit in a minute in Claude. So let me go ahead and ask. So I just started using Paperclip, and Paperclip looks super, super cool, and I think we could really benefit from going ahead and create agents. And correct me if I'm wrong, at the end of the day, Paperclip is just an agent orchestrator, and we can automatically kind of go ahead and do that in Claude Code. It just opened my mind because it shows like a nice little document of like the org and the skills, and it's like a UI that I feel like would have been super useful to have in general, to make me understand like how agents are really working together. At the end of the day, this was already something that you could do, but I'm guessing Paperclip just makes it easier to manage agent orchestration, right? Essentially, can you explain to me what the best way I would go about building my Paperclip out to build out different agents? Because we're getting to a point in Market Hustle where I am kind of losing track with the amount of files and the amount of things that we are building out, and I need to organize myself a little bit. And I want to know, what do you think is the best way to organize ourselves, based off of like everything that we built? Like a CEO is probably important, obviously, to orchestrate. What do we need? A front end design person we need, right? That's going to remember all the UI skills. Anytime I add a new feature, the design agent would essentially be called to build the UI out. We might need a back end engineer that would build out all the back end stuff, right? And then we would need somebody who would check their work to make sure it looks good in the browser. So we would need a third agent, which would be the QA tester that would test within the browser, test everything's working. And the fourth one, I feel like a creating marketing director to just figure out like, marketing strategy for us. But I think another one would be just I don't know how to describe it, but somebody who's just like gets a feel for like the app, not just a QA tester that's like, hey, if A plus B equals C, like their goal is to just make sure that happens, right? If 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, is that correct? Yes, it's correct. But I want somebody who's like, should we even do 1 plus 1, right? What I'm trying to say is like, should the app be in this direction? Is this something that would work for normal humans or whatever, like in the app? Like if I built the UI piece out, right, I don't want to just, the front end guy did it to the schematics with the same text font and the UI color that I wanted. The back end made the schema exactly how you should. The QA tester made sure like, hey, the button isn't like bleeding off the screen. When you click on it, it works, right? Essentially, you would think all the tests pass, but the whole point of the button is useless, right? We don't even need it in the app. So I need somebody to also, look at all the successful apps and gauge, hey, is this something that we even need? So I probably would need somebody like that too. But all that to say, how would we use Paperclip right now? Should we even use it? Should we just use Claude to create all these agents within Claude Code? But I do like the UI that I have in Paperclip. Is it using extra tokens or anything extra for me to like kind of move our market hustle work to there? Or like, what do you think the best way to do it is? How would I connect it to my BPS and all these agents have context to it? What do you think would be useful here? Or am I just adding more complexity? Yeah. So let's see what it says. I feel like I went over my usage. Did it burn through everything? I don't even know if it burned through everything. Okay. Let's see what we get response. This is pretty cool. This might help me kind of continue working on my application a little bit better. I'm in a really good spot with how I feel about my startup, but I'm a little confused with a few things towards the end where we're getting to the final phase of testing, and there's just so much to test every single second. And when I add a new change, something else gets broken, and it's taking me so long. Paperclip is essentially a UI layer over Claude Code. What you're seeing in the org as Claude Code is a visual representation. Does it cost extra? Yes, mainly. So every agent has its own system prompt loaded, context, inter-agent, CEO tells front end what to do. That must multi-agent, multiply token, not dramatically. Your agent roster, you mostly write. Your instructs are solid. CEO, front end, back end, QA, product strategist. Growth. The fifth one you struggle to name. This project, man, it's given the most successful marketplace to do, given your brand. Should you even use it right now? Honest answer, probably not yet. Here's why. Earns is complex. Tasks are clearly separable and run. Your code base is too large for one context when you're doing enough volume that overhead. Right now, marketplace, you're still build fast, figure out the model, slow founder. Adding 5 agents that need to coordinate for anything else slows individual tasks, cost more tokens, add new. What about actually use Paperclip's UI as a thinking tool. Map up your agents to find their skills, or even if you don't run them all 7. Build your great Claude down, default parole. Ongoing weekly, activate full organization once you hit complexity wall when you generally can't track. And via Claude Code locally or point out a remote environment to connect to either run Paperclip. You're not wrong about it. The agency described makes sense. The tool is real. The use case value, you're just slightly ahead of the moment where it pays off. You use it now to design your agent architecture. The org chart is genuinely useful for clarity, but don't stress about running all 5 agents in parallel until market complexities actually demands it. And that makes sense, right? I got really excited. Obviously, this was already a thing, and it's been a thing. Or anytime you have agents, just seeing Paperclip visualize it was kind of cool. But at the end of the day, that's what agents are, right? People have been creating their own agents for a while now. That's been a thing. But just having it really orchestrated properly is the hardest thing, I think, to figure out. Like, when should these other agents be called? And there's so much going on, right? Like, persistent memory is a huge thing. Like, Hermes is solving that. Like one agent is better than creating six of them if you have persistent memory across all of it, and it's optimized via vector search, right? So you don't even have to worry about it. So there's just a lot going on. All that to say, I think for right now, I just continue building, ship, see where we're at, and then maybe build out the proper, like, I mean, I already have like some structure to my thing. I mean, I do have a front, like I have .md files for like financial stuff or anything related to bookings, but maybe we need to do a better job of organizing it more. All that to say, these are some really cool stuff, and really to get ahead in the AI world, your job is to just ask questions and keep building and testing different products out, and then just go from there. There's nothing else to it really, right? Like we're at a point where there's just a crazy amount of tools out there, and like you can never just figure out what's the best tool to use. Your job is to pick a tool and just use it, and then move on to the next if you don't like it, right? It's asking questions. We're pretty much at a point where it's like do first apologize. Like what's the saying where it says like don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. We're pretty much at that point. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but I feel like we're at that point with the AI, with the way it's going. It's pretty much like, hey, just try to work on it, and then it's a terrible way to say it. I know it's a terrible thing to say, but at the end of the day, and obviously that's not what you would do in production level, or like if my app was live right now with 10,000 users, it's probably the most terrible advice that you can probably give, which is just ask for forgiveness later. As in, essentially what I'm trying to say is like, hey, just keep building and tell AI to do whatever and give it all the information it needs. But like, no, obviously you have to give it some structure. You can't have like security flaws and people bringing out your site and you have like a vulnerability and all that kind of stuff. But what I'm trying to say is like, when there's a tool, test it out, right? You don't obviously use it in production, but just use it. Use anti-gravity, use paperclip, use all that, build out the agents. And then if they're not good, then move on to the next thing. There's so much going on. You will just never be able to read about this stuff, right? You can read and read and read until you use the tool. There's nothing, right? Everyone's saying the same stuff. Anti-gravity, Cursor, or Opus versus Sonnet versus GPT 5.5 versus Gemini versus Grok versus DeepSeek versus Kimi. Like everyone's saying the same thing. Like, hey, use OpenClaw or use Hermes. I have persistent memory. Like, I do memory optimization even better than that. Like, I can run using Slack and it's already integrated within me. There's so much going on. Your job, pick a tool, use it. Don't like it, move on to the next. Pick a LLM. You don't like it, move to the next, or use multiple different ones for different use cases. Right? And that's the only way to get ahead in AI with so much coming out, is to build, and to optimize. Right? You're just reprompting different ways of doing different processes, right? You're pretty much just constantly doing a workflow, and you're adjusting the workflow to finally find something that works for you and your style, right? Everyone's different, but I think at the end of the day, that's what AI is really coming down to.